Hello everybody, and welcome to another exciting part of our series for Google Earth webinars that we have set up here at Tech. Now this is webinar 47. We're almost at the halfway century mark of our series that we got going here at Tech. Now as a quick reminder, this is part 3, so if you aren't familiar with a lot with Google Earth, we did have parts 1 and 2, and they are archived along with all the other previous webinars that we do have at www.tech.com/video, and you can find all of our previous videos, not just webinars but other videos that we've had recorded, and they're stored there, and they're all free, so do check it out. Now we also have upcoming webinars coming after today. We have one for August 15th for the Tech Torah, which is a good series that we have set up with Gershom Tave, who's one of our great trainers that we have here, our professional developers, and also for September 5th, which again, we're going back to the basics, and this is Smart Basics. Okay, so those are the previous ones that are coming up. Also, if you're looking for other professional development ideas, you can get some great ideas from opportunities for us to come to your school if necessary. Is at tech.com/courses. Okay, now just as a reminder, some of you already have done this. We have a chat box going on the right hand side over here on your screen. Just log in and enjoy the chat. Now, today is Google Earth, but this time part 3 deals with what's called Google Earth Tours. Now, what is a tour? Now, a tour is basically pre-designed pathways and maneuvers that you could do on your computer, and then all you have to do is record it once, hit play, and your students or other participants can enjoy the show without you physically having to manipulate the smartboard or interactive board or Google Earth. Okay, so let's go over what we call Tech's 10 great things that we could do. In this case, Tech's 10 is dealing with Google Earth tours. Okay, let's go to the computer. So as we look here, we have Google Earth in the classroom, and again, this is considered part 3 right here. So let's talk about our top 10 that we have so far. So what we have, well, not really top 10, but these are great examples you could do with Google Earth tours. So number 1, Explorer Tours, where you can talk about famous explorers throughout history, and either you or the students can actually design little tours that can recreate the paths that certain explorers have done in history. Another one for our younger grades, kindergarten through 3rd grade most likely, is all about me and the community in which they live in. And they can create tours of who are the people in their neighborhood, and where's the firehouse, the police station, etc. And those are actually great ideas for the younger grades. If you're doing those more environmental impacts for, let's maybe science, or in the social science world you have human interaction with the environment, you can talk about how environmental changes have possibly changed where people live, pollution, etc. Those are another great examples. Scientific exploration. You could also have exploration of things done on Google Mars, Google Moon, or those exploration of seafaring navigators who went out exploring over the seas. Historical imagery, if you've seen our previous webinars, deals with how places have changed over the years through the past historical satellite shots that are stored in Google Earth, and you can actually record those if necessary through what's called a Google Earth tour recorder. A battlefield tour, such as Gettysburg, which I'm going to do as an example of, is a great example of you can use this to show different points of a conflict area if that's what you're covering. Comparing distances using certain path tools, which again using path and measurement tools that we've covered in the first webinar, such as the Nile River versus the length of the Mississippi River. What about a great project for setting up for the students to create a tour that goes along with research and to create a narration podcast? Now, webinar number 46 was actually done by Joe, who's one of our resident PD people here, and he created a great one on creating podcasts. So if you do it and want to do narration, the podcast will be perfect for that. Now, if you want to do a preview of possible field trip, and sometimes, in replace of a field trip, if it's too expensive, you can actually recreate where you would go or where you have been when it comes to field trips. So that's a great example. And also, the last example is if you can't afford to go to Harappa, which is part of the Harappa Mohenjo-daro civilization, you could always do a virtual field trip. Or if you're going to Paris, or if you're going to London for the Olympic Games, you can actually set up a tour. Okay, so keeping that in mind about these great tips that we have set up here is that the tours are, in this case, you're designing, but some of us don't have all the luxury of time to sit down and make a lot of great tours. So let's start off with a couple of really good resources that you can find to download, and this way you have it with you, and there's 2 good resources. So the first one is called googlelittrips.com, and Google Lit Trips are those that are that tie in with language arts reading material. And again, if you're into the Common Core State Standards, you're actually tying in the ELA component, the language arts component, along with history or social studies in with that Common Core Standards approach. So, and the other one is a great math one, and it's called realworldmath.com. I believe it's .org. I'll double check. But that is pretty much, as they say, is Google Earth plus math, and that's a great resource. But we're going to stick with the first one for now, Google Lit Trips. So let's go to Google Lit Trips and let's go find one. So before we even get there, we want to talk about how do you get Google Earth. Now, if you haven't really had Google Earth before, all you need to do is go to this website called earth.google.com. When you do get there, you're going to get treated to a page here, and it's for, again, the new page is not really earth.google, but they redirect you, and it takes you to the same place. When you want to download it, you just press this blue button right here. It says Download Google Earth. When you click that, it actually takes you to the downloads page. I'm just going to click it once, and you'll get a new window. You agree and you download. Now, it's a very small file, and I'm not going to go through the whole process, but you'd save it to where it has to go, and you just continue to install. And it's really a fast install, and it doesn't take that long to do. Okay? So after you download the Google Earth, and then you come to your googlelittrips.com. Again, the address is at the top right here. And if you wanted to find examples, and again, if you see it going across, they do break it down by grade ranges, K to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12, and higher education, along with specialty projects. In this case, we're going to look for a K to 5 area. So I'm going to click on this, and we get a new page. And there's tons of examples, and again, all of these tie into works of literature. A Walk in London, the author's name is Salvatore Rubino, but I'm going to scroll down and look for a particular one, which I tend to like a lot, because I use it a lot. It's actually called Make Way for Ducklings by Robert McCloskey, pardon me. All you need to do is press that link right here, which I'm going to do, and you notice there's the information about the author and also who did put together this one particular tour or the series of pins, and her name is Mary Ellen McNamara. So she had created this. How do you download it? In the upper right hand corner, you'll see where it says download. All you need to do is just click it once, and it's going to ask you where do you want to save it. Now, I already have mine saved, so all you have to do is just choose save, and you're going to do a good thing about this. I'll say save, and down in my lower left hand corner, due to my web browser, I'm just going to click this link, and it's going to open up, and you'll notice it's called a KMZ file. If you're new to Google Earth and you haven't really done too much, anything that's shared or imported into Google Earth is using what's called KMZ files, and I'm going to explain more about that in a little while. I'm going to click that link, and notice Google Earth opens up, and up over here on the left hand side, which is called the Places portion of the pane, you notice there's a folder. You have this little Google Earth logo right here, and a series of pins and images that they use for pins and place markers right here. And I'm going to zoom out, and you'll see if I wanted to make my way with the ducklings through Boston, you'll see this little folder with this little play button. When you click the play button, what it's going to do is going to play the series of pins and place markers inside this folder in the sequence that my computer knows how to play. In this case, I have it set for 5 seconds to get from one place to another, and 5 seconds to stay and wait until it needs to go to the next one. So if I hit the play button right here, again, that's the folder with the play button, and this button right here, this zone, is going to be very important for other things we're going to do today. I'm going to hit the play button. We're going to pan out, and if you notice at the bottom, you're going to see this little control bar, pause, fast forward, rewind through your different steps. So you notice as we move into pin number 1, if we wait long enough, a little dialog box full of information. If you ever need to pause, just press that pause button on the pen, on the not the pen tray, but the control bar at the bottom. Notice I hit the pause and it stopped playing, and now I can review this information in this little window right here. So this is a good part to help the students know, and you know that Mr. and Mrs. Mallard's route through Boston is actually laid out through 14 different points. If I hit the play option right here, it's now going to continue along with the series of pins that you see on the left-hand side. So as we travel through our version here, but notice I'm not doing anything, I'm not clicking anything, it's just going by itself. And again, this is something that you could download from Google Lit Trips. So there's a lot of pre-made material that actually goes with material. And if you notice other things that are popping up here, you'll see images, you'll see text. If it's going a little quick, I'll just hit the pause button right here when the next dialog opens up. And you notice there's a map. And if I scroll down, you'll see right at the bottom there's links to where the source came from. Like any good teacher, you cite your sources. I'm going to end this tour. How do you stop it from happening? You'll see this little X right next to what looks like a disk, or the save option. I'm going to press that, and I'm just going to stop the tour, but it's still in my computer. If you've ever downloaded or imported anything into Google Earth, it gets put into what's called a temporary place, which is the folder right here under the Places option. If I close out and don't save anything, my tour that I downloaded will no longer be there. It will be deleted. If I want to keep this tour, what I need to do is drag this little icon, just drag it up into the zone above that, and you'll see that under My Places, which is where you keep your things, at the bottom is the one that I downloaded, in this case, Make Way for Ducklings. If I do not want to see any of that information anymore, seeing the red lines or the text, I'm just going to uncheck the checkbox next to the Google Earth logo, and there it goes, and it's gone. Okay, so that is an example of using Google Lit Trips, which is actually a very good feature to use. So keeping that in mind, when we want to use Google Lit Trips, those are ones that are pre-designed, usually by educators or sometimes the publishers of certain books that want to integrate other forms of technology along with their literature that they've created. Now, what if you want to start your own material? What do you need to do to create your own tour? Some people use the phrase lit trips, but that's kind of proprietary. So Google calls it a tour. Now the tour, you need your basic steps. Setting pins, which were covered in previous webinars. Maybe using overlays, which was done in webinar number 2, and also on a series of videos that we use called TechCast videos. So we did cover this prior, but I will go over it again, but not as in so much detail. And maybe you want to add images or pictures, just like you saw in the previous example here from Make Way for Ducklings. And we're going to talk about how you'd actually want to use this. So let's start with the basic one, and how do you set pins and quick overlays, and then how do you record that action? Okay, so let's go back to the computer. So if you notice here, I have a folder in my upper left-hand corner right here called Balto Story. If you had seen webinar number 2, you would actually see how I designed this folder here for Balto Story. So what I need to do is I need to zoom out. In Google Earth, on the right-hand side, you'll see these 3 navigation bars. One is like a radial dial that tells you which way is north. Another one is a panning window, allows you to pan around. And the one on the bottom allows you to zoom out. I'm just going to click and drag down, and we're going to zoom out of our Earth here. And I'll keep zooming out. Now the Balto Story, if you're not familiar, is a work of literature that deals with a dog who was noted for bringing special medicine or serum for a disease that was happening up in Alaska. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and there's my Alaska. And if you notice, as a quick reminder, most students are so used to having north at the dead top of their page. In Google Earth, you don't have to be very manipulating of this little N to make it perfect. Just click that N once, and what it will do is actually write up the Earth so the north is at true top of the page. I'm going to zoom into a town called Anchorage, where this story begins. In the upper left-hand corner, I'm going to type in the search area. I'm going to type in Anchorage, and AK is short for Alaska. I'm going to choose that option, and then choose the word search. Now it is a Google search, so you will get some more information, but we're going to zoom in to Anchorage, Alaska. And I'll double tap. Now if you need to if you double click, you're going to zoom in to a predetermined amount. But if you wish to zoom in quickly, grab that slider on the right hand side, the one I used to zoom out, just click and drag it up and you'll zoom in. Just like that. Now, a couple of quick housekeeping rules when it comes to maneuvering things in Google Earth. As a quick reminder, a left mouse click and holding and dragging allows you to move the Earth around, like this. If I was to hold down the Control key on my keyboard and then click the mouse, notice the little circle, the crosshair that pops up, and move it, I'm able to tilt the world at a 90-degree angle from where I was staring at and look at the world from a different point of view. This is great for social studies or science if you ever need to introduce this to the students from seeing the world other than a two-dimensional map. We're looking at this object, and all it is the control, click, and drag, and you can manipulate the Earth to the view. I'm going to zoom in a little bit tighter and follow this road just by clicking and dragging my mouse. I'm going to go near the main part of the city. And I don't know Anchorage too much, but see this building right here, the one that's all in this yellowish orange color, right here. Now another great tool, and this again comes very handy for using tours and when you want to record ones. If you hold down the Shift key on your keyboard and then click and drag your mouse, if you notice again the Control allows you to look up and down from where you're standing. Look left, look right, down, and up. But if I hold down the Shift key and then click and drag, you notice that little circle that pops up. Wherever I click, that is the focus of the rotation of up, down, left, right. So that is my focus. So if you're going to create a tour around a particular facility, building, a town, or whatever it may be, that Shift option allows you to see all around that one particular spot. So that's actually a very good tool to use. So I'm going to do a pin, a quick pin. See this little yellow push pin right here? That's called Place Mark. If I click that, you notice a pin appears right in the middle of my page, which is right here, this viewing window, and I'm going to drag the pin right here. If you click in the middle of the pin, you could drag it anywhere you wish. There is a spot here where it says name, and I'm just going to rename that as Anchorage. Anchorage, Alaska, and my description at the bottom, I'm going to type in, this is where Balto starts his journey. Again, I never said I could type. So this is where Balto starts his journey. Now, if I ever wanted to give the students more information about what I can find there, if I was to go to a web browser and search for something, as a quick reminder, I'm going to quickly search in Google. I'm going to type in Anchorage, Alaska. And if you notice, right over here, Anchorage.net, vacation tourism, let the students know, or maybe some more information. Now, I'm going to use Wikipedia just as a quick reference. It doesn't mean it has to be 100% accurate. I'm going to click that link. And notice at the top of the website, you'll see what's called a URL address, en.wikipedia. If I select that and then secondary click or right mouse click and say copy, you're going to see a really neat feature that you could do in Google Earth. So in Google Earth, when I come back to here, see where it says add a link? Kind of like where you saw that reference, like where did I get my information from? If I choose add a link, you'll see this little spot that says link URL. If I was to paste my link right there and then choose OK, now it uses what's called HTML code. It's pretty tough to read if you're not familiar with the language. But if I choose the OK button right down here, one last thing about setting pins and overlays when we get to that, see the option for view right here? I'm going to click on that. And I would like to remember all this information about where this pin is located. So at the bottom, I'm going to choose Snapshot Current View. So this whole viewing window that you see over here on the right is all what it remembers. And I'm going to choose the OK button right here. Now on the left-hand side, see how we got this little underline right here? If I was to click on that, you notice here's the information, there's the text I typed in, and a link to a website for further research or maybe citing my source where I got my information from. So that is a really good example of using this adding links to right away, which is a nice idea. I'm just going to close it out by hitting that big X. But I realized that I put Anchorage in the wrong folder. Anchorage belongs in my Balto story folder right here. So I'm just going to drag down my page. And again, just like I did before, from dragging it from temporary places, I'm going to click on the actual link right here, my pin, and I'm going to drag it up until it goes any further, which it cannot. So I'm just going to do this 2 or 3 times. Click and drag it up. Where did you go? Here you go, Anchorage. And of course, I'll just drag this into the folder called Balto Story. Now the folder opens up and you'll see the pin is right there at the top. So I've actually created a pin and I brought it in there. So what exactly is a pin? If you're not too familiar, a pin is a spot where you can remember to come back time and time again. And you usually can add a lot more information or details, such as the link that I provided, and also some descriptors about why that place may be important. The next step we may do in our tour is creating what's called an overlay. Now, I'm not going to go through the full steps, but I already have one created, but I'm just going to backtrack just a little bit to show you how it was put there in the first place. Okay? So let's go back to the computer and do an overlay. So if you see this little pin underneath called Balto Book Cover right here, if I was to zoom out here, notice the logo, the symbol. If I was to double click on that, I'm going to pan out to a spot where I had saved it. But again, I cannot see that book cover until I select that pin right here. So I'm going to press the pin, that little checkbox, and my book cover's not there. Oh well, it's not there. But you know what? This Balto route map is there. Don't mind that. I double click my pin, hit my option right here. Let's go to Balto route map. And notice I have a map of Alaska superimposed over the actual Google Earth image of Alaska. So I'm going to drag down a little bit, zoom in, and notice how the map is there and it's sitting on top of Alaska. How is that done? Just by doing a few steps, by pressing this button right here, which is the overlay button, image overlay. A lot of these steps that I'm doing have been covered in previous webinars. I'm just doing this relatively quick. Now, if I was to right mouse click on this and go into properties for a moment, notice these little green handles around the picture. When you first add a picture, you get these green handles that let you know where the image is going to be. And I can manipulate the picture to make it fit to where it has to go. If you have a hard time knowing where to match up with shoreline or such, you can do what's called a transparency option. If I make the image somewhat transparent, like this, you're actually going to see somewhat of Alaska underneath the picture. So it's a good tool to help line things up when necessary. But right now, I'm a little OCD, but we're not going to spend the time to make it perfect. So what I'm going to do is go fully opaque by dragging this over the slider bar. Now, where did I get that picture there in the first place? Just by choosing the Browse button right here. The picture has to be on your computer someplace. So if I go to my desktop and go to where I found my picture in the first place, and I have a folder here for Google Earth pictures, and there's Balto images that I'd used. This was the book cover that failed the first time. But here's the Iditarod route image that I used. So that's what I had done in the first place. And you'll see the spot here for add a link. That is where I got my picture from iditarod.com. And I just choose OK. So now when you select the blue highlighted text on the left-hand side, the text box opens up. A nice thing about Google Earth is that it's also part of the Google family. Inside of Google Earth is Google Chrome, sort of. See the link right here for Iditarod Race? If I was to click on that, you'll see inside Google Earth, the web browser opens up, and I'm actually at the website for for Iditarod.com. So that's the information where I got my picture, so I'm citing my source from where it was from. But notice on the left-hand side, Google Earth is still open. So if I'm ever finished here, I can always click back to Google Earth on the left-hand side, and it takes me back to my Google Earth. So these little links allow you to get further information without having to leave Google Earth. So it's actually a nice point about doing that. So talking about why we would use overlays, overlays are a great tool to bring maybe older images on top of Google Earth to show maybe again the environmental changes over time, depending on what we were researching. But also if you wanted to add the elements, in this case like the Balto book cover, which didn't appear, but if you saw webinar 2, it's there. And also I can add other elements like maybe the author's picture or author's face. So those little elements you can actually tie in to the whole feature dealing with the story, in this case, of Balto. But how do you create the tour? I said pins, I could set overlays, but how do you create the tour? Okay? So we're going to go back to the computer and we're going to start recording. This time we're going to do it without audio, and it's very important reason why, and I'll come back to that. Let's go to the computer. So if I was to double click on my first pin for Anchorage, Alaska, right here, this is going to be my start. Now what's nice about this, I'm going to uncheck those two right here, and I'm going to zoom out. If I was to zoom out of Earth really, really far, I'm going to click and spin the Earth. The record button, if you look up right here, is actually record a tour, which is this little video camera image. I'm going to press that just once, and at the lower portion of the screen, you're going to see these two buttons. This means record with audio, and the other one is just record without audio. I'm going to zoom out, and I'm not going to do audio. I'm going to hit the record button, and everything in this viewing window is being recorded. Not my mouse, that is not being recorded. But if I was to double click on Anchorage, Alaska on the left-hand side where we set that pin, we're going to stop and we're going to zoom in. Notice the checkbox for it has checked. An important thing to look at. We zoom into Anchorage, Alaska. There it is. We can sit and spend a few seconds. We can talk about Alaska if we wanted to. But I'm going to double click on Balto book cover. Now I'm going to uncheck Anchorage, Alaska. Notice the dialog went away. I'll bring up my big nasty X here because the image is not found. But I'm going to double click on the Balto route map. And notice I can turn things on and off as I'm recording. So this information's here, so if I talk about the race and bring up the map right now, there's my map. Now if I zoom in a little bit tighter, and remember my little shift control, I can shift control and give a better perspective of where this takes place in this whole environment, in this whole terrain. So remember that shift option I mentioned earlier by clicking and dragging, and I'm going to zoom out. Everything I'm manipulating on the Earth is recording. Everything. And the last one is the Balto statue. I'm going to double click this. I'm going to turn off the map and turn on the statue of the image that I have here in Central Park, which again is not found. So I can always show you how do you find something that's been moved. I'll cover that next. Okay? So I'm going to stop my recording by pressing the record button right down there. And now it's going to do a quick preview of what was covered. So notice the Earth is spinning. Again, if I spoke for 30 seconds, it's going to last 30 seconds. As it's doing this, I'm going to notice your attention on the left-hand side. Notice that I'm not going to click anything. The Anchorage pin is going to turn on and off by itself eventually. Let's go pin. No, didn't turn on. Where's my Balto book cover? Didn't record that one. But if I like my tour, I can always save it. Notice it's going to all the different places that I visited. And if I zoom in just like I did before, but I'm not moving my mouse, the computer's doing this all by itself. And again, that shift and click, you notice I'm able to manipulate the Earth and it's being all recorded. This is the basic nature of how do you record things. Now, At any time I want to stop this, I can use the pause button right here, but yet I want to save my work because I want to use this and share this with other people. That little pause button that I stopped it, on the right hand side, you're going to see this little disc. Now, if it didn't work nicely the first time, this little button next to it means start over and try again. What I'm going to do is save this. When I hit the save button, again, just like setting a pin or an overlay, it's going to ask you, what do you want to call this tour? I'll call this Balto. And any information I can add. Now, what if I want to add an image of Balto the dog? If I click on add an image, notice it says image URL. Just like we added a link, I need to go find this picture of Balto off the internet. So if I go back to my web browser, and I'll just type in Balto, and there's an image for Balto. And I'll just go one from, here's a nice image here, and it's from Balto's True Story, so I'm going to cite this as a good teacher. I'm going to click that page just once, and notice on the right hand side for most images there's a way of getting just the image only, full size image. I'm going to press that. At the top, I'm going to select that text just like I did before when I did the linking to the Alaska, the Anchorage page. I'm going to copy that at the top, choose copy. I'm going to go back to my Google Earth, and right where it says image URL, I'm going to paste it. I'm going to choose OK. And I'm going to choose OK at the bottom. So again, what does the image look like for Balto? It's right here. See the little video? Of course, I'm going to drag that to be at the top of my list of the Balto folder. Just click and drag. And there it is. You want to see what it looks like when you have to play? Let's zoom out. I'm going to close this little X here. We don't need it open. That I did for the video player. The video play, notice the play button like we did for the folder is now it says play a tour. When you click on the tour, it goes back to where it was before, and it's going to run through its course and do the whole video thing. But if I click on the Balto name on the left, right here, notice what pops up. There's the image of Balto that pops up as my intro to my story. I can turn off this. Notice the pin is here as it's playing, and on the left hand side you should see the check mark turning on and off for the maps, for the pins. So this is a nice feature that you turn on and off for this particular feature. Now Anchor, the Balto book cover should be an epic fail. Again, I'm not clicking anything, folks. It's doing it all on itself. This is going to be another important factor when I talk about sharing our work. So now you're creating these little tours, and it takes time and practice to do this. You're not going to be an expert right away. It took me quite a while to get the little tricks down. So you start creating tours, and maybe you find one that you found from Google It Trips or realworldmath.org, and you found that, and you want to bring it back into your lesson, you can. And you can modify and adjust any of those that you download. They're not really set or secure. So you can add text or you can add images, it's up to you. But when you have those saved, or you make your own, and you wish to share it, either with yourself or share it with your students, or maybe put it onto a wiki or something that you want to use, you can always send it out if you have to. So, but when you need to do that, there are certain things you need to remind yourself about saving files. Okay, so we're going to talk about how do you save it and how do you share it, either with your students or maybe your peers, and you go from there. Okay, so let's go back to the computer. So Balto is still running its story right here, and again, it's still doing its thing. I'm going to hit the X again to stop it from playing. Now, how do you save a story? Now, if I share this and save it out, guess what, folks? I'm only sending the video or me manipulating and moving objects. But how do you add your own narration? And this is something that I had mentioned earlier. I'm going to share this with people. I'm going to share this with my students. But what if my students weren't in the classroom and I want to give them a guided tour with my auditory work, with my vocals? I can add my own information on top. So how do you add your vocals on top of something that's already been recorded? My Gettysburg battle that I mentioned earlier is already here and it's already been completed, but no audio. So how do you add your audio on top? of something that already exists. Now you could do some fancy podcasting or using other software to do voice recordings, which are phenomenal. And again, look at webinar number 46 with Joe. That was a great webinar, and you could definitely tie in these elements. But within Google Earth, let's kind of keep it simple for ourselves. I'm going to press the Gettysburg title right here, and I'm going to expand the folder by pressing this little triangle for Gettysburg, and you'll see my little video tour. I'm going to turn that on, and then double click the actual folder, and it's going to start off the whole thing. There's my dialogue. Now I'm going to pause this for a moment. The trick for a lot of us is if I'm playing, let's go back to Gettysburg, and I'm going to pause it for a moment. I can actually hit the record button at the top while another tour is playing. So if I rehearse all the movements first, then all I need to do is record my audio on top of the tour that's already being played. So I have a tour here, and I do need to save this, and I do need to run it because I want to share this with my students. So I'm going to hit the record button at the top, and from this point on, folks, when I'm talking, my audio is going to be recorded into Google Earth. So I'm going to click on the record a tour and hit the play feature here, and then hit the record button. Hello folks, as we start cruising into the Gettysburg battlefield area that we use here to teach our 8th grade social studies here in New York, there's our battlefield map. Now that's a contemporary map that was designed a month after the battle. We're zooming into the actual town and panning around. We're looking at the depth and the breadth of this field, and notice it's not very populous. There's not many areas, it's mostly farmland. I'm going to remove this map in a few seconds, and I'm going to show you battle strategic maps that were done, again, to show off where the battles had taken place. As a side note, folks, I'm not clicking or dragging anything. So the new map turns on, just like I did before at Balto. I turn them on and I turn them off. Now, as it's recording, I could do more step-by-step dialogue to follow along with the action. I'm just going to hit the pause button here for a moment. And notice it's going to start rerunning, and I'm going to hit the volume and just take a listen. Folks, can you hear that? Because it's awfully quiet on my end too. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to jack that up again and see if you can hear my voice. Here we go, one more time. Let's see. Here we go. You don't hear my voice, do you? All right, let's go back. Hit play. And we don't hear anything. Is my microphone off? I'm sorry, folks. This sounds like, again, another epic fail, but that's what you get for doing stuff live. Alrighty, now let's do this. It worked before. Let me just make sure my volume's up. My microphone was on. Everything was on. Alright, so we're not hearing much of anything. Okay, so trust me, it's working. I've done this before. You should hear my voice talking. I'm raising my volume. Microphone's on, and so is my speaker. Alright, well, as you notice, it is doing all the movements I had done before. But yet, now I know the reason why, and this is why we do it live. And yes, folks, I did this on purpose. I did. I swear, I promise I did this on purpose. On my record option here, I forgot to hit the microphone. I just hit the record, but I didn't hit the microphone. So we'll do it one more time, really, really quick. Sorry for the delay. Here we go. I'm going to hit play and then hit the microphone button. Hello folks, as we enter our Gettysburg battlefield, you're going to notice that we do have our battlefield appearing out of nowhere. So here's our Gettysburg battle, and we're going to start discussing about the battlefield area that is happening. As you see, the battlefield's being manipulated and moved around, and if you notice, we do have day 1, day 2, and day 3 of battles that could be appearing for us. As we're doing this, I'm going to zoom out here for a moment, and we're going to replace the Gettysburg battlefield old imagery here with the modern what did happen during the battle. So we're going to zoom in a little bit more and take a closer look at the battlefield. As we zoom in, you'll see our different battlefield, our 3 days worth of fighting of day 1, day 2, and a little bit of day 3. I'm going to hit the stop button now, and it's going to play, and you should hear my voice.
Hello, folks. As we enter our Gettysburg Battlefield,
We have success. Awesome. Sorry for the delay there. As it turned out, I hit the wrong button. But you know what? Teachers make mistakes, okay? And I practiced this quite a lot today. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause this for now. And of course, you can hear my voice. I'm going to stop that for a moment. So, sorry for that, folks. You know, it happens. It's live. And so you could do recordings. You could practice yourself. Now imagine your students practice this a few times. If it didn't work, they could just hit the little X and try again. So when the students create this, imagine this as part of a project-based learning, where the students have to create pins or show overlays of maybe environmental issues or historical events or elements dealing with literature. They can add their own narration on top. Now, using certain podcasting tools, they could do overlays between 2 different dialogues, 2 different voices. You know, you can get pretty in-depth. So keeping that in mind, we've just created something, the students who have created something. How do you share your resources and how do you get it out there? Okay, so we're going to show you a couple of different places where you could save it and then how to share it. Okay, let's go. So I've created my battlefield, my Gettysburg battlefield right here, and here's my little imagery. Now let me just close it out here. At the folder, if I wanted to, I need to press this folder right here and I need to save this. Now it looks like I'm getting a question, can music be added as well? As long as it's being played pretty much out loud through the speakers, it'll pick it up. It is, as far as I know, there's no internal microphone to just send an MP3 directly into it. I haven't found that yet. So, but usually if it's just playing out of your speakers, your microphone will pick up the sound in the background. Okay? So how do you save this or share this? Now, if I press or right mouse click on the name of the folder, now this is very important. This video, when I was hitting play, all the different pins or overlays have to be in the same folder. If not, the video doesn't know what to turn on or turn off in the sequence. It'll just go through the motions, but it doesn't know what to turn on and off. And remember how I said I sent out that Balto folder? I moved it from a different place. So it's going to think, go find that picture and put it there. That's why when I moved the folder, I didn't actually bring the proper pins, and that's why I had that big X. So I'm going to right mouse click on Gettysburg Battle, and I'm going to do Save Place As, which is right in the middle of my list, or share with the community, or email it. There's 3 different ways to get this out to somebody else. Now email is going to send that KMZ file that I mentioned earlier. If I share it with the Google Earth community, it's going to go into like the whole community of the chat world of Google Earth, and I'll show you where that's located. But I'm going to save this place. When I say save this place as, I can save it to any location. In this case, I'm going to put it on my desktop and choose save. I saved it on my desktop and it's there. So that's been saved on my desktop, and it's a spot that I can use to either link directly from Notebook or share it onto a great website, something like Edmodo that we like to feature. And it's also been featured also in previous webinars. So I've saved my resource. Now if I save it to the gallery or the community, this button right here brings you to a spot where you can find other information, whether it's tours or other information related to Google Earth in here. So if you notice the spot, I could type in tour Gettysburg, and if I did it correctly, I could share that with everybody, and it should be found by a lot of different people. But again, that's if you're really one of those people who wants to share your information with the rest of the world. I'm going to zoom out of the Earth for a moment. So how do you share the information that you have found? Now Edmodo for us is a great resource, and I'm just to minimize Google Earth out of the way and go back to my web browser. Now for those people who are interested in following all this information in what's a website called Edmodo, so wait for it to open up here, you can join our special community here, and I'm just going to scroll down some information. Again, there's our free information for Google Lit Trips and realworldmath.org. If you'd like to follow us and this particular presentation, we do have a lot of resources stored on what's called edmodo.com. We do have how-to videos on how to create an account, set yourself up as a teacher, and use this code right down here. Somebody will probably post it on the chat line. And the code is E9BJJ7. When you use this code after you create your Edmodo account, it actually takes you to our chat world right here. Edmodo is kind of like Facebook for schools. There's no ads, there's no play your Zynga games. It's a nice little self-contained community, and it's safe for all. So looking at this one last time, because we're almost finished here, a lot of information has been put up. If you notice, if I scroll down the page, a lot of chat people are putting stuff in here. You'll see the stuff for Google Lit Trips, a KMZ I've uploaded. So how do you share this with the rest of your class? Well, if I was to click in here, click this little dialog at the top and say, here is a trip for Butterfly. Now I'm using a different one here. Here's a tour of Butterfly migration. And see where it says File at the top. I'm just going to press File. And if I go to my desktop where I kept it, so I have one for American Revolutionary War, Butterfly Migration, Gettysburg Battle. So I'm going to take this Butterfly Migration, choose Open, and now who is it for? Just this one community, the group of people. So if you join this group, you now have access to this KMZ file, googleearth.summer2012, and I'm going to choose Send. You join my group, you now have a couple of free KMZ files that I've uploaded. One for island hopping campaigns of World War II, and also this Butterfly Migration file. So there's a couple of great ways of sharing your resources with the rest of the world. So it's a nice little factor for you or for your students or for those who you wish to share your resources. Now, one last thing about Google Earth here is that Google Earth is an online program. You need to be online and use those full resources. So we're now near the end here, so thank you very much for joining us. Now, if you haven't had much of the previous experience about setting pins or overlays, this might have been a little overwhelming. Sorry for the technical glitch there with the sound, but accidents do happen. But if you look on our website at tech.com/video, you'll see our archived webinars for previous versions of this and other webinars that we have done before. And again, to remind yourselves, if you need a certificate to prove that you're here, don't forget to do that feedback button, the blue one right underneath me over here. Just click the feedback button and you'll get provided to a PD certificate of some kind. Okay? So if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can actually put them now on the Edmodo page, which we do follow, or you can send any information or questions or comments to training@tech.com. Okay? This is Matthew from Tech. Thank you very much and have a great day.